Hello, my name is Owen, and welcome to a quick review of Leigh Bardugo's Six of Crows. What I want to do is give a brief overview of the book's about, tell you the things that I liked, and tell you the things that I didn't like. Going straight into it, this is a fantasy book in the Grishaverse. The Grishaverse. There was a trilogy before this, the Shadow and Bone trilogy, and this is a sequel duology taking place in the same universe. I did not read the trilogy, the original one. I did watch the first season of the Netflix show, did not watch the second one, and then I heard the show got canceled. But I did enjoy the first season of the show, and from what I know in that show, they kind of combined a lot of Six of Crows and that Shadow and Bone books into the show, and my favorite characters were the characters in this book. So I'm like, you know what? Everyone says great things about Six of Crows. I like the characters from the TV show. I'm going to give it a shot. It's basically a heist fantasy book. So there's a bunch of ragtag group of criminals, and they get together and they pull off a heist. And I do love a good heist, if you should know anything about me. So I was very, very excited for this book. And overall, hold on, don't you think this is pretty cool? Although I will say, there is something that annoys me a lot. It's books that have this rinky-dink short front cover. I think it's a little bit stupid. That being said, this one is well done, because I think this page looks really cool. That being said, I did drop this book into a pool of water, so it's got that extra, you know what I mean? It's got the crinkle. Oh, it's got a bit of a rhythm to it. Anyway, I don't like getting my books wet. It makes me upset, but I do like the way the paper feels afterward, just as an unrelated note. However, I was really excited to read this book, and I'm happy to say that I did have a good time with it. This is, and I've said this in a couple of videos, this is like a blockbuster fantasy. It's just here for fun. It's just here for action. It's just here for some snark, some banter, a little bit of high-octane action, right? It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's not too adult. It leans more towards like the lighter fare fantasy. I don't know if I would consider it young adult, because I feel like when you say things are young adult, it means they're for children. But I would say it is for like it's light adult, I think, is a better way to describe it, because there's some dark things that happen, but it's not a dark book, if that makes sense. And I think that's one of maybe the complaints you can find about this book, is that all these characters are like, I'm so edgy, I'm so evil, I'm a demon, bro. And they're just like kind of rude sometimes, or they'll really gloss over the dastardly stuff they do. So that's one weird thing that happens in this book. But really, it's just not dark, which makes it fun and makes it enjoyable. And quite frankly, I did enjoy that. This is a fun, lighter read. And it's about 600 pages. I burned through it fairly quickly, though, and it's just a load of good fun. And I think one of the interesting parts is the author has a little bit of like a afterword talking about writing the book, and she basically said it's very, very hard to write a heist book, because in the movie you can kind of set it up and then do flashbacks to how like they got to the point, the twists and the reveals and the plan, and they do the supercuts and stuff like that. And I never thought of it that way. And I do think there were moments when I was reading this book where I'm like, there's not enough heisty moments. There's not enough of that, like the reveal, the flashback, the plan. And when I read her saying how that's hard to do, it made a lot of sense. There's a couple moments where like they'll get to the point, it's like they're gonna do this plot twist, and then it reveals that like Kaz was like, and then I planned that all along, which I do appreciate, but there's not a lot of that. A lot of it is the plan goes wrong portion of heist movies, where they're just making things up on the fly, which is fine. I'm sure it's easier. It was an easier way to take the story rather than just doing a straight heist, a plan executed perfectly. Because with the medium of a book, I feel like it's a little bit difficult. But just in case you're expecting like really complex like intricacy in a heist, I think it disappoints a little bit in that regard. The heist itself isn't super complex, isn't a lot of moving pieces in a puzzle, like which is part of like the heist genre that I enjoy. Not too much of that. That being said, I do think that the characters in this book, the crew of the heist, are fantastic. I would say there's a decent array of personalities. They're not explored super deeply for a lot of them, but the standouts are, I think, Kaz is a good character, Inej is a good character, and then also the dynamic between Nina and Matthias. I thought they were super interesting, particularly their backstory, which is kind of like, a lot of these characters have previous relationships, and as we explore the book, they like flash back to the times they met. And I thought those are some of the strongest points of the book, but particularly Nina and Matthias' flashback, like their dynamic was super interesting. So to see that develop was a lot of fun. And another thing that, although in the plot that I didn't so much enjoy, is in revealing a lot of these backstories, almost all of these characters have like a villain, right? They have like that one person that just screwed them over so many times. And I would say things happen in this book that are a little bit too convenient, right? And I get it. You want it to be satisfying, but I felt like they take the heist outside of the city, right? And I wish this book, they was just like in the city of Ketterdam, right? It's dark, it's gritty. I wish they would have kept it local for the first book. They take them offshore, right? But then every single one of their backstory villains happen to be in the place that they're going. Like literally every single one would be like, and reveal who's around the corner. It's the person that I fear most in the world, and they're right behind the corner. And some of them make sense why they'd be there. Other ones, it's like, why are you here? And they all defeat them, and it's all too neat sometimes. It's all tied up in a bow, their little character arcs. Not that I wanted it more gritty, because that gets into like, oh, I'm dark, I'm edgy, you know what I mean? I'm not saying like we had to get a protagonist dying. It's not that kind of book, but it's a little bit too neat, a little bit too convenient, right? The way that some of these show up. And I wish we would have kept it maybe simple for the first book. Maybe book 2, they take them offshore. Because how this book ends, I think the ending is good. It's interesting. Excuse me, I'm getting a little worked up about it. I'm very emotional. But it seems like it's setting up more of a local story, and another heist, obviously. But I wish it kind of would have been flipped. Like maybe the first one's local, we get to know the world, get to know the feel of the characters inside their home territory, and then we take them outside of it in the second one. But alas, you don't always get what you want. And overall, I did enjoy this book. I do like a nice, easy, breezy read. The characters in this are really strong and a lot of fun. And if this was like a 20-book series where they do a different heist every time, I would enjoy that. And yeah, we'll see how it goes from there. I'll be interested to see how good book 2 is, just because a lot of the most juicy character arcs, you could say, or pretty much resolved in this book. So I'm interested to see how the author does it in book 2, when these character arcs are mostly resolved and it's just them just putting on a straight heist. Maybe we'll get up to a little bit more hijinks that I was hoping for, or maybe they'll just add some more characters into the mix. Who knows? I certainly don't. But overall, a fun read. I did enjoy it, and I will continue. Let me know what you think in the comments if you read this book or you're planning to read the book. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like the video and you want to see more like it in the future. And as always, thanks for sticking around.